seem that the original plan for Am Israel is that they would be a nation of priests. At the end of the book of Exodus, however, we find that it has gotten down to one priestly family. That is Aaron and his sons, Aaron in particular. How do we go from a multitude to one person? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10 Minute Torah, day number 4, the Torah portion, Pekudei. Yesterday we talked about how Moshe had a privileged tent, the Ohel Moed, the tent of appointment or a tent of meeting, a private place where he alone could go in and speak to Yahweh, the Creator, face to face as a friend. And he would emerge with glory all over his face. And it would have a benefit primarily from Moshe. He could come out and say, this is what I heard Yah say. Once the tabernacle is constructed and put together, that private meeting place no longer is functional because now Aaron steps into the role of meeting with Yah in, again, a tent, but it is for the corporate body. This is a corporate national tent where Yah resides as having a dwelling place in the midst of them. Again, though, it would seem that the original design was for the entire nation to function in priesthood. That was abdicated by two reasons. Number one, in Exodus or Shemot chapter number 20, we find that Yah comes down in such glorious, overwhelming fashion, announcing the 10 words with his very voice in the people's hearings that they fear for their lives. Moshe, they said, you go listen to him and come back and tell us what he said. They backed away from their opportunity of priesthood. Then at the golden calf, Moshe stood and said, who is with me and with Yah? Only the Levites came and stood with him. Therefore, they were taken in the stead of the rest of the nation as they chose to stand for integrity and for the validity of Yah's word. So now it's come down to a single family to operate as the Kohanim, that is the priest, before Yah. This has followed suit then continually throughout the many generations. And we find then that how the Nicolaitans have arisen. Let's just say it that way. In the book of Revelation, chapter number 2, if we read verse number 4 through 6, it says, but I hold this against you, that you have left your first love. He is speaking to the assembly at Ephesus. So therefore, remember from where you have fallen and repent and do the first works, or else I come to you speedily and remove your lampstand or your menorah from its place unless you repent. Yet this you have, that you hate the work of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. Continuing in this chapter, when he comes to the assembly at Pergamos, he writes in verses 14 through 16, but behold, I held a few matters against you, because you have there those who adhere to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat food offered to idols and to commit whoring. So you also have those who adhere to the teaching of the Nicolaitans, which teaching I hate. Repent, or else I come to you speedily and fight against them with the sword of my mouth. So, two things are referenced here. The teaching of Balaam and the teaching of the Nicolaitans. What are these teachings? The teaching of Balaam was, if it's natural, it can't be sin. If I'm hungry for me to eat, why is that a sin? If I have sexual urges that Yah put inside me, and I follow through on those urges with an attractive and beautiful woman, or, as the case may be, an attractive, desirable man, then why is that a sin? After all, he put these urges within us. Yah gives us boundaries as to how to respond to the desire to eat, the desire to sleep, the desire to work, the desire for procreation, etc. There are proprieties as to how this is to be followed through on. Balaam blurred those boundaries altogether, and it just said it can't be a sin if it's a natural thing, justifying then that the men of Israel could be drawn to a table full of delicious appearing foods, clean and perhaps very much unclean, and then also to be seduced by beautiful Moabite and Midianite women, to the degree that they also got up and worshiped the disgusting idol Baal Peor. This thing caused the death of over 24,000 men with the plague. So Yah hates this, where the boundary lines are blurred. There's a similar blurring of lines when we teach about, or when we look at the teachings of the Nicolaitans. What is this? The meaning of Nicolaitans is founded in the name Nicholas, which means victor or ruler over the people. It is thought that the Nicolaitan doctrine was that of hierarchy, a spiritual hierarchy, where there is an individual up front, sometimes in some situations in a very ceremonial robe, surrounded with a lot of pomp and splendor, a lot of pageantry. And the robes, the decor, the presentation, the aura of the moment, the fanfare of the entrance all gives the idea there's someone exclusive, elevated, very, very special. And so it is also then, to the human mind, easy to understand they are over me, they have authority over me, and it's a hierarchy system. It's a them and the rest of us mentality. I'm not saying that to have a platform and your place of worship is sinful, but in some respects, the idea of a platform is not just to push the person up high enough that they can be seen, but sometimes it comes across as the elevated ones and those on the main floor. And again, it's just a mental suggested thing at times. Many of us have come out of previous situations, religious situations, circumstances, where when we left, we said, among other things, they lied to us. They gave us false doctrines. They didn't tell us the truth. Why didn't anybody tell me about the feast days? Why didn't anybody tell me about the Torah? Why didn't anyone tell me about the name Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, etc.? So we come away in our great wagon loads of offense, pointing our fingers at someone who stood on a platform, supposed to be over us, supposed to be the leader of us, and yet we feel like they led us astray. Let me tell you, from being in such a previous position as standing on that platform, most, if not almost all, of those individuals were simply preaching and teaching what they had heard and received and been trained to do. And with a sincere heart, they were trying to pastor and lead their congregation to the best of their understanding and their ability. Many, once they hear differently, learn differently, gain a better understanding, cleaner insight, they began to struggle. How do I move from one arena and understanding into the other and not lose everybody in the mix? It's a very difficult procedure. So be easy and be careful about throwing those bombs at those who you used to follow. And while we would say, well, no one's going to fool me again. I'm going to do all of my own studying for myself. No one's going to lie to me again. You basically set yourself up again as the very person or the very type of person that you were railed against, saying, I am now the one elevated and you guys will have to listen to me. Is it any different? No, it's not. But Yah selects those who will stand closest to Him, hear most clearly from Him, but they have an accountability, a responsibility of nurturing, pastoring, and guarding those to whom they speak. It's not an easy job. It is rewarding, but it's not an easy job. Think about that. More tomorrow. We'll see you then. Shalom.